Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob, I'll be your host. And many years ago, Wizards of the Coast decided to change things up and completely redo their main game that they were publishing, which was Dungeons & Dragons. And so they came out with the 4th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. About the same time, their main rival, White Wolf, decided that they do the exact same thing with their entire World of Darkness line. And like Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, it didn't go over very well. But it does have its fans. I happen to be one of them. And we're going to talk, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video, is the core rulebook for the World of Darkness. The World of Darkness core rulebook. This book has 222 pages and a copyright of 2004. It was published by White Wolf Publishing, and all of the artwork in this book is in black and white, and is pretty good. So let's go ahead and look at that artwork. All of the artwork in this book is in black and white, and it's all really pretty decent. It all goes a long way to setting a good mood and tone for this game. To play this game, what you're going to need is a copy of this core rulebook and as many 10-sided dice as you can get your hands on. This book is actually considered the first edition of the game because they've done a second edition of it. And the second edition, they changed the name up so that it's now the Chronicles of Darkness instead of the World of Darkness, which is kind of nifty. To generate a character in this game is pretty easy. There's a lot in it that harkens back to the original World of Darkness game, and some new stuff. The attributes that you have in this game, like in the old one, you have 9 attributes broken up into 3 groups by 3 groups. I know that sounds weird, but we'll get to that. You have your mental, your physical, and your social attributes, just like in the old rules. But one of the attributes in each of these categories is considered a power attribute. Another attribute is considered your finesse attribute. And the third in the category is considered your resistance attribute. The attributes are intelligence, wits, and resolve for your mental. Your physical are your strength, dexterity, and stamina. And your social are your presence, manipulation, and composure. And that's it for the attributes. And just like the original, you have 1 to 5 dots in each of the attributes. You get 1 dot in each of them for free. And then you must pick a priority, either your mental, your physical, or your social. And in your priority, you get 5 more dots to split up amongst them. And your next most important, you get 4 dots. And in your least most important, you get 3 dots to split up. After that, you'll want to pick your skills. Skills work out a little bit differently in this version. There are a lot fewer skills because they've condensed the list, combined some of the old ones, and so forth. But there are 3 categories of skills: mental skills, physical skills, and social skills. And they range from 0 to 5 dots. And you pick a priority category, either your mental, your physical, or your social. And your most prioritized category gets 11 dots to split up amongst them. Your next most important gets 7, and your least most important gets 4. So that's pretty simple. Then, instead of backgrounds, like in the original World of Darkness, they used merits to replace backgrounds. And the merits can pretty much do the same thing as backgrounds, and they've added a bunch of new stuff to it. You get 7 dots to split up amongst those. Your character now has a size level, and all adult humans are a 5 as far as size goes. Now, if you played a younger human, like a child or a teenager or something, you might be a smaller size category. And there is also merit called Giant, which bumps you up to a size category 6 because you're a lot bigger and beefier. So there's that to bear in mind. Your health in this, in the old version, everybody had the same amount of health, 7 wounds. That's it. If you're a grandmother, a bodybuilder, a nerd, doesn't matter, you have 7 wounds. In this, your wounds is figured out pretty much how you're built. You add your size and your stamina together, and that's how many wounds your character has, which I think is an improvement. I think that's pretty cool. After your health, you'll figure up your willpower, which is your resolve and your composure added together. After that, you set your defense, and your defense is the lower of either your dexterity or your wits. Then your initiative modifier is your dexterity plus your composure. Your speed is your strength plus your dexterity. And then you have a morality score starting at 7. And the morality score will go up and down as you play the game, depending on how you play your character. You also have a virtue and a vice for your character, which replaces the nature and the demeanor from the old version of the game. And your virtue is based on the 7 heavenly virtues, and the vices are based on the 7 deadly sins. And the way they work is, if during the game, once per game session, if you successfully play to your virtues, which it's supposed to be more difficult to play to your virtues, so it would require some kind of personal sacrifice to your character to play out your virtue. And if you succeed, then you regain all spent willpower points. And it's much easier for you to succumb to your vice. If you succumb to your vice, then you gain back 1 spent willpower point. And that can happen several times during the session. But it's much easier to give in to your vices than your virtues, but it pays off more to give in to your virtues. And as a optional rule for character generation, they have flaws in the back of the book. And the flaws in this work differently than they did in the earlier World of Darkness. In the earlier World of Darkness, I've never played a game where the flaws were nothing more than extra points you could grab at character generation, and then your flaws never even show up in the game, which kind of sucks. In this, it forces you to actually play out your flaws. You get nothing when you take a flaw. You just choose it, mark it on your character sheet. But as you play your character, every time your flaw hinders you, you get 1 bonus experience point. And so instead of getting a couple of points to spend at character creation, you can gain lots of points throughout the life of your character because of that flaw, which is kind of nifty. It forces the player to actually play out his flaws instead of just using it for extra points at character generation, which is really kind of neat. There is a section in here on the skills. There's a section in here on combat. There's a section in here on equipment. For the actual rules of the game, it changes things up a tiny bit. You still use the 10-sided dice. You add an attribute and a skill together for a roll, and you make that roll with that many number of 10-sided dice. And you add and subtract a number of bonuses or penalties to that roll, and those will deduct dice or add dice. But you come up with your dice pool and you roll them. For every dice that is 8, 9, or 10, that is a success. Anything else is a failure. If you roll a 10 on the dice, not only do you gain a success, but you get to roll that die again. And if you roll an 8, 9, or 10, you get another success to add to your total. But if you roll a 10, you get to keep rolling the 10s till you no longer roll 10s, which is the 10 again roll, and that's pretty cool. The botch is pretty much gone, But due to penalties that you could score, if you're ever reduced to 0 dice, you can do what's called a chance die, and you just take one die and roll it to attempt what you're trying to attempt. And if you roll a 10, you succeed. Anything else is a fail. But if you roll a 10, the 10 again roll acts and you get a roll, and if you roll another 10, you get another success. You get to keep rolling. So that's kind of nifty. It can bail you out. But if you roll a 1 on the chance die, you get a critical failure. And each of the skills and each of the abilities in the other games and so forth will list with them what a critical failure can entail, possible bad things that could happen to you. So that's kind of neat. And of course, the more successes you garner, the better you accomplish the task. And certain tasks do require a certain number of successes in order to complete the task. It's all explained in here. But it's pretty simple. And it's got everything you need to play the game. It's got a section in here on building ghosts and ghost powers so you can actually hunt the supernatural. It's got a few ideas in here to get you started on how to play the game. But it's mostly billed as our world, only a darker version. And it's pretty cool for what it is. I actually like this game. A lot of people think I'm weird for that because like I said, it was not popular when it came out. But I actually prefer it over the old rules. But that's just me. I know a lot of people probably will take fault in that, but that's just how it is. But it brings me to 3 questions. Would I play a character in this game? And I'm going to have to say absolutely. I like these rules. I'm sorry. Would I run this game? And yes, I would, and yes, I have. I've run this game to a lot of success for the people that's played it. And they had a lot of fun, even though they had the reservations going in. Would I recommend this game? I would recommend it. Even if you don't want anything to do with the Vampire the Requiem or Werewolf the Forsaken, I would give the core book of World of Darkness a try, playing Mortals, because you can do a lot of really wild supernatural stuff in here, and some of the supplements they sell for this adds a lot more to the characters. Sonic powers, hedge magic, even some Cthulhu type body warping, body horrors, a lot of neat stuff. But, it is what it is. The other books that came out for this, we'll talk about it in other videos, which would be Vampire the Requiem, Werewolf the Forsaken, Mage the Awakening, and so forth. And those kind of act like templates that you can place over the mortal characters that you would create in this book. And this is the core rules. You would need this to play any of the other first editions of those books. And that's pretty much all I got to say for the World of Darkness. Thank you for joining me. I had a look at this book, and hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.